Hey everyone, so I'm about to explain to you your first assignments. These are the instructions. You can find them on student materials on the Student Hub where you normally find all of your assignment instructions. I've just put the instructions into a slideshow for this video. I'm going to explain to you all of the instructions and what's expected of you, and we'll glance at the rubric so that you can see how it's going to be marked as well. Okay, get ready, let's go. So some general instructions for this assignment. Please make sure to adhere to all of these instructions, okay? So firstly, it's due on the 26th of March, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Do remember that for the first 24 hours, so until the 27th of March, 11:59 p.m., there will be a late penalty of minus 15% if you hand it in during that time period. But if you hand it in after that, it will not be marked, okay? So please make sure you hand it in on time. Okay, so this assessment is a formative assignment, so you do it at home, and it is made up of 2 questions, each 50 marks, making a grand total of 100 marks. Okay, you will be submitting your assignment through Turnitin when you hand it in ARC. And then, so what is now important is there is a page limit for this assignment. Okay, so not a word limit, there's a page limit. Of 5 to 8 pages. So a minimum of 5, a maximum of 8 pages. And so that it is all equitable and fair, you have to follow the following formatting instructions when it comes to your paper. Okay, so you can set your page margins to 1 centimeter for the top, bottom, left, and right. You can change that setting on Word and set it to 1 centimeter. This will allow you to fit some more words onto the page as opposed to normal. Okay, and then you must use either the font Calibri or Times New Roman. If you use Calibri, you must use font size 11, or if you use Times New Roman, the font size must be 12, okay, because those 2 options are essentially the same. Space, okay, and then you must set your line spacing to 1.5 centimeters. And follow APA 7 style referencing throughout the assignment. Okay, so that means in-text references and a reference list right at the end of the assignments. Okay, so as I've mentioned, the assignment consists of 2 questions. The first question, briefly, is a 50-mark academic essay, and your task is to state and justify your position on using deception in research. All right, so this whole assignment is based around the ethical principles and considerations of research, and your first assignment asks you to decide whether or not you agree with using deception in research, and then justify why using literature. Okay, I'm going to break that down more in a second. Question 2, the rest of the 50 marks is also an academic essay, and it is a case study. Okay, let's go through those. So, question 1. And now what I've put in these sticky notes here is to remind you of an academic essay structure, so please apply this to both assignments, in that you need an introduction, the body of your essay, and a conclusion. Okay, the structure is very important, and for this assignment, you even get marks for the structure of your essay. Okay, so what you need to do for this essay, here's the little blurb. As a final year psychology student, you should be able to evaluate research and ethical issues that may arise around them. As such, you are required to write an academic essay where you argue your position on deception in psychological research. Hey, in other words, you need to make a personal position clear in this essay. Do you agree with the use of deception in research, or do you disagree with the use of deception in research? Okay. And then you need to support that answer with academic sources. Okay, so it is telling you here you must use no less than 5 academic journal articles. Okay, in specifically journal articles. So usually we say credible sources. This one is very specific. You have to use credible journal articles, okay, as your sources. Your textbook is not included in these 5 minimum sources, but you may use it as well. You just have to then also have at least 5 journal articles. Okay, so you're going to be doing some research in terms of deception, do some searches for articles on deception and research. What does it mean? maybe find some examples of some studies that have used deception, and look at the reasons for that and whether or not it is justifiable ethically. Okay, so going back to the structure of your essay, it is important to have an introduction, and you need to include these things in your introduction to get good marks for your introduction. Okay, you start off with an attention grabber. Okay, so you state your position. It can be your attention grabber. You have a quote as an attention grabber, something that makes sense and is interesting for your reader to reel them in. Okay, you then must give some context for your essay. Sometimes it's useful here to give a definition of your concept. So, what does deception in research mean? And then you declare your position. So if you haven't already made it clear in your attention grabber, you make it clear here that you either support or do not support the use of deception in research. Okay, and yes, you may use I, the personal pronoun, but remember, as much as you need to be stating an opinion, all of your points must be backed up by academic sources. Okay, so you are finding arguments in papers and constructing them here to back up your position. Okay, then with the rest of your introduction, you provide a little roadmap for your reader. So, if you've got 3 main points, you say this essay will discuss the following points, and you can list them. You just give that kind of roadmap so that your reader, before they even embark on the rest of your essay, knows exactly how you are going to construct your arguments. And then you end off your introduction with a link to your first paragraph. Okay, under the body, what's very important that I must emphasize is that you please use effective paragraphing. So make sure that your paragraphs are full. So you make a point, you explain, use an example, and then link it to the next paragraph. Okay, 1 point per paragraph. Don't have an entire page that is 1 paragraph to try and save space. Okay, you will lose marks in terms of structure for your essay. You must use proper paragraph spacing. Okay, and in that body, through a few paragraphs, quite a few paragraphs, if you have an 8-page limit on this assignment, you will be constructing your argument. Okay, and you are allowed to use subheadings. Okay, it in fact is encouraged in this assignment because it is quite lengthy, and they are very useful in terms of structuring your argument. Okay. Okay, then you must include a conclusion, which you also receive marks for. You need to summarize your main points that you've just explained through your essay and end off by reinforcing your position, right? Say something like, therefore, because of these, strong facts, etc., I accept the use of deception in research under particular circumstances. Let's say, okay, that's a position, all right? So just make sure that you're reinforcing that position to end off your essay on a strong note. Alrighty, that is question 1. Let's take a little look at the rubric. Okay, I've just put some screenshots here of the rubric. This is again available to you in that assignment brief document. So please, when you do start your essay, go and have a look over the rubric again and make sure you are aiming for this top block here. Okay, like I said, you will get 5 marks for the structure of your essay and an introduction. So if you don't have a clear introduction, you can't get these 5 marks. If your essay doesn't follow a logical structure, you can't get 5 marks for this. There must be a clear focus throughout your discussion, okay? So that if you go on too many tangents, you can't score in this highest block. And again, to score on the highest block here, your introduction grabs your reader's attention, all right? So you provide necessary background information and presents a clear thesis statement. So in other words, presents clearly your position in this argument. All right, so that's 5 marks in the bag already, just by following structure. Okay, the next 20 marks, so the bulk of the essay, are made up of your knowledge and skill. Okay, and you can read through this rubric in your own times, what that means. But what I wanted to point out here is this particular bullet point in this section of the rubric. And it's look here in the top block, it says the discussion uses more than the required 5 journal articles. Okay, so as well as your essay showing good insights and knowledge of ethics and research, you constructed a good argument. If you've only used 5 journal articles, the bare minimum, you cannot score in this highest block because of this point of the rubric. Okay, so if you want to get good marks in this essay, make sure that you're using at least 5 journal articles plus your textbook, or at least 6 journal articles plus your textbook. Okay, make sure that you have more than just the required 5 sources. It shows you going the extra mile and being able to use those sources to enhance your argument, okay, to give nuance to it, and show synthesis of ideas. Okay, so please take notes of those nitty-gritty details in rubrics. Okay. If you use any sources that are not credible journal articles, so if you cite any websites or blogs or anything like that, you cannot score higher than the bottom block because of the rubric. Okay, so please do bear that in mind. Okay, another 20 marks is about the quality of your argument. Okay, so remember, this is an argumentative essay. You must state the position in the beginning. We've covered that. And now when you develop your argument, the main points that you make, they must be convincing. Okay, and one of the ways to do that in an academic essay is to provide sufficient evidence from the journal articles that you are using. Okay, what may help is for you to find some examples of studies that have used deception effectively, for instance, if you want to support the statement. If you want to go against the statement and say that you don't agree ever with using deception, you need to then perhaps find some examples of studies that have used deception and why it has not gone well, okay, or why it was a bad thing, or find papers that argue against the use of deception in research. Okay, so you must be using those sources. You must show consistent engagement with the literature throughout your essay. Okay, so that means obviously you're consistently citing it, but also directly referring to particular papers. Okay, so making statements like Smith et al. 2023 argued that, and then you paraphrase that statement. Okay, you may use the odd quote from sources, reference it correctly with the page number, but please don't overquote. Okay, only use quotes when absolutely necessary to prove a point or emphasize a point. Okay, and then conclusively, you get 5 marks for your conclusion. And as I've said before, it must be clear. Okay, it must give a good summary of the arguments that you've just presented and clearly state again that position that you are taking. You support the use of deception or you don't. Yeah. That is question 1. All right, now for question 2. Question 2 is a case study. Okay, so this is the case study example. I've just highlighted it to keep it interesting, but just some important facts. Okay, so when you read through this again, when you start this essay, go through the case study, highlight the important facts that you find interesting, and then tackle the question. Okay, so I'm going to read this out just so that everyone is on the same page. Okay, so you have it here in the recording. Okay, here is your case study. Rebecca has been contracted by a company to conduct research on the relationship between workplace dynamics and employee satisfaction. The study involves observing employees in a corporate office and also interviewing them about their experiences in terms of conflict in the workplace. Okay, so you already now know what the study is about and how Rebecca plans on carrying out the study methodologically. Okay, Rebecca arranged with the HR department to observe the employees in common areas such as the cafeteria, and she recorded her findings. The HR department tells employees that someone will be observing them as part of a routine workplace evaluation. Okay, so question to ask yourself at this point, does this line up with the purpose of the study? Okay, hint, hint, wink, wink. All right, the interviews are conducted in the cafeteria and involve detailed questions about workplace conflicts. During 3 of the interviews, the employees start crying and Rebecca offers them a tissue and then tells them the interview is over. That's it. Okay, Rebecca also eavesdrops on conversations between employees in order to determine the dynamics in the different teams. She stores her records in an empty drawer she finds in a room that HR has allowed her to use. The room is accessible to all workers as a storeroom. All right, ask yourselves if that is a good or bad thing ethically. During the study, Rebecca reports back to HR in terms of which employees are experiencing conflict, so identifying employees individually, as well as what she hears the employees saying while she is listening in on conversations. Okay, there are some juicy tidbits in this case study, and there's more than enough for you to analyze according to the question, which is as follows. Okay, you need to, in an academic essay, present an integrated discussion where you discuss at least 5 ethical guidelines that Rebecca is violating and provide examples from the case study to substantiate your answer. Okay, you also will need to conduct additional research to complete this assignment and use no less than 5 journal articles to complete your essay. Okay, so the same instruction as the previous question. You must use another 5 articles to substantiate your answer for this essay. Okay, you then will have an overall reference list at the end of your essay consisting of at least 10 sources. Okay. Let's talk about the rubric. Use the case study examples, so directly refer to instances of what Rebecca did and in your essay. Yeah. So the same logic applies for the previous question. If you've used more than the required 5 journal articles in your discussion, you can score on this top block. If you've only used at least 5, then you can only receive a maximum of the top block of this in the rubric. Okay, so just a little nitty-gritty detail there. Bear that in mind. Okay, you can go through the rubric in your own time, read through each block so that you can see what you are striving for, and always aim for this top block. Okay, this is the entirety of the rubric for this question. Most of your marks, 30 marks, coming from the knowledge of ethics and the use of required academic sources. Okay, so you directly referring to academic articles that you found to substantiate your points and substantiate why violating these ethical principles is bad of Rebecca to have done in her instance. Okay, find sources to back up those points. And again, your textbook does not count in that minimum 5. It would count as an extra source. Okay, then you get another 20 marks for your consistent and appropriate application of the case study examples to your points. Okay, that is it. Those are the instructions for this assignment. Good luck. Please make sure to hand in on time. If you see that you are going to have issues handing in on time, follow the appropriate channels ahead of time to avoid issues. Okay. Good luck.